Hello and welcome. The name is Byron. So today we'll be discussing with you what happens when you are unable to keep up with your mortgage payments. So you are unable to pay your interest and your monthly payment. So what happens? What does the financial institution do? What does the bank do in that case? And we'll be looking also at the end of the video. We'll be looking at what you can do on your side when you are already in this situation. So stay tuned and thank you. So during this process, many people do not know what is expected of them. And a lot of them many people usually go into hiding, or a lot of the people, you find that they start to ignore the call from the bankers. Even when the valuation is being done, they do not want to allow the valuer to come and see the property. Anyone that is sent to them by the bank, they completely shut off that door of communication. They completely pay the wall, and there's no way that they can be contacted. If they have if they have a phone number, they do not pick any call from that bank. Because at the end of the day, you remember that in your title, you already have the financial institution have been registered as a charge. So pretty much they have a lot of say in that property. So for you to go silent, you are not doing yourself any favor. So it's better for you to keep on communicating with whoever is relevant in this situation. So what the financial institution does in the case that you have failed to make your monthly payments, first and foremost, they are going to enforce some penalty, which is something you already are aware about because they have it in your agreement, in your prior agreement. So if you can recover from that, you'll find that the only thing you'll be paying will be that. So if you're unable to make the payment, they will begin to send you emails and make phone calls just to invite you over to their department, so the credit department, to have a chat with you on what can be done to restructure the loan. So restructuring is very broad, and it includes a number of things that you may have to discuss with your financial, because not all financial institutions work the same way. Each of them has their own culture of restructuring. So this is something that you'll have to go and discuss with your banker. You'll have to go and discuss with your SACCO if you've taken a loan under a SACCO. And it's something that is different from every bank, but restructuring is something that is usually the first option for the bank, because they are also trying as much as possible to avoid going the other way, which is taking your property from you and auctioning it out, because that route is usually very expensive. It is costly for them. It takes a lot of time and it's very hectic, and they try as much as possible to avoid that. So the first thing they usually do is to try and restructure the loan so that you still own the property and so that you still continue paying the loan. So probably they've already done the restructuring, but you are still unable to make your monthly payments, or you are still unable to meet the threshold of the payment that they expect from you every month. So what happens next is that now they have to issue a pre-notice they have to issue some kind of it's a pre-CRB notice for you to be it's sort of for you to be reported to the CRB. Before they report you to the CRB, they have to give you a notice, which basically is just the history of your default. So this should take something in the range of about 40 days. They should give you something in the range of 40 days for you to go through it, for you to sort of complain if there is any complaints necessary, and for you to try to also, it's still trying to buy time for you to try and recover yourself from this situation, from this default. Because as I told you earlier, they are trying to avoid to go the foreclosure way, to go the way where they want to have to auction you out, because no one wants that. Even the bank does not really enjoy auctioning you out because it's expensive and it is timely and it takes a lot of effort. It involves a lot of professionals, and they have to pay so many people in order for them to get this too and to get back their money. So they're trying to also buy time for you to be able to recover yourself. So the next thing that they do, if you're still unable to catch up with the payments, they're going to do a formal statutory notice. After they have done this, they should take about 90 days, about 3 months, for you also to still to be able to recover if you can. After this period, if you're still unable to recover, so you've gotten to this point, you're still unable to make the payments, you're still unable to catch up, or maybe you're unable to keep up with the threshold, the amount that is expected for you to pay every month. So what they do next is that the bank will, through its advocate, they will issue to you a demand letter which will invoke their right to either sell the property or they can take you to court. And out of these two options, they rather just sell the property because the other route is also a very lengthy process. And so they usually just prefer to auction out your property. And at this point, you must know that you are no longer in possession of the property. That means you cannot sell the property by yourself. It has to be sold by the bank. And at this point, you understand that it's being sold at a for sale value, which is not the market price. Rather, it is just a minimum of 75% of the market price. That means your property can be sold at a lower price because the bank wants to recover its money as soon as possible. So you may lose out on a lot because if they get a client at this point and the client is willing to pay them something, and even if it's lower than the market value, they will quickly take the money, and whatever remains is what they will give back to you. So once it has been auctioned out, maybe they've got a buyer, they come to you and they now have to, if you're living in the property, they're going to evict you from the property. But if it's a rental property, maybe to a flat that you have rented out to several tenants, they're going to repossess it. And they will have now just to transfer the title to another, to the new buyer without disrupting the tenancies that are already existing. This procedure where the bank is sort of taking back the property for you, it invites a lot of trouble between, it invites a lot of issues. And you find that most cases, because the owner already knows that the property is being taken from them, they will either not take care of the property. You'll find that maybe they will abandon the property completely, or they no longer see the need for maintenance of the property. And in most cases, you find that the property has really lost its value. It has not been taken care of. You find that if their classes are broken, the fencing is not properly done, the landscaping is no longer being done, and therefore the value of the property will go down. And so you may find in other cases that the value of the property has gone so much low that even if the bank if the bank is to sell the property, they cannot recover the amount that they gave you out. You want to continue to be in communication just in case anything comes up. You may be informed and that you may be aware of which stage they are with your property, because at the end of the day, it is a property. They should not make decisions without you being informed because of your silence. So at the very first stage that you realize you are unable to pay, maybe because there's an hiccup that has come up, you want to quickly go and contact your banker and inform them that maybe this month you'll not be able to pay early, or maybe there's been something that has come up and you are unable to make the monthly payment as you are supposed to. If you can pay part of it, if you can pay maybe half of it, then go ahead and do that. But if you are unable to pay completely, just inform them so that they prepare early. But I think the penalty is not something that they want to be able to be evaded, even if you have already informed them prior. But at least it will be good for them to know that it is because of 1, 2, 3 that you are unable to make the payments at the current month. So then you need to look at your own expenditure and you need to just see you need to look at your own expenditure and to try to figure out what has cost you to be there. If maybe you're building another property somewhere and it is costing you to really stream, maybe it is because of your expenditure or any kind of thing that is within your control. You may want to just review your own budget and to really cut down to ensure that you are spending the minimum so that a lot of your income goes to the repayment of your mortgage. Well, another thing you can also do is, probably if it's a house that you're living in the family, you can also consider to go to a smaller house. If it's a big house, maybe it's a townhouse or mansionette that could fetch you a higher rent. You can also consider to go and rent somewhere at a cheaper price. If for instance your property can fetch up to 70, 80, 100,000 per month as rent, then yourself you can go to a smaller house. You can pay some 20K, you can pay some 30K, and you use the remaining of them. You can rent out the property and use the remainder to pay off to help you to pay off your mortgage. So, but if the case is that you are completely unable to make any further payments, or you are at a position where you are unable to get the initial amount that you used to pay the bank, then in this case you may need to go to the bank and to request for them to do a restructure of your mortgage. So if your situation is something that is long term, maybe you are at a financial situation that's going to take a longer period for you to sort out your issues, then in this case, you may need to visit a financial institution and request for them to review your mortgage and to restructure it so that now it becomes more friendly to your pocket, even if it means that they have to extend the period to increase the number of years maybe that you're expected to pay off the loan, and maybe ultimately to increase the amount that you're going to pay at the end of the period. But if that be the case, then you have to just go for it. So other than how you engage with the bank, it's also good for you to communicate the same to your family. It's also good to communicate the same to family. I think I saw someone who had taken a loan. At a certain point, someone told me that they're going to do a valuation somewhere, and they met the lady who is the wife to the person who had taken the loan, and the lady was just getting to know of this at the time when we were seeing the valuer, and she broke down and started crying. So it was very hard because she was totally unaware that the husband had taken a loan, and this is their family home where they live. So it's good for you to just communicate that you are taking a loan and this is the situation. It's good for you to communicate to the people that you are living with, the current situation. Also, when the value is coming, you do not want to chase them away. You do not want to deny them access. Many people usually lock their doors. They inform the watchmen to not allow the valuer to come into the property. This does not do any good, because if he goes back and he would report this to the bank, and they will already be viewing you a certain type of way, as someone who is stubborn and very difficult to deal with. At the end of the day, you see these people, they are human beings, and how you interact with them is how they want to treat you back. If you're someone who is very cooperative, then you find that they're going to give you a much easier time than that person who is very hard to deal with, that person who does not want to communicate. So you do not want to chase the value, because that is the report is going to give to the bank, because he expected when he's come to see the property to take photograph, to tell them what he saw with the property, and to give a value according to his own opinion. So he cannot form an opinion when you do not even see the property in the first place. So you just want to let him see the property, tell him if there's anything new that you've added to the property, if maybe there's any installations you have done, if there's any changes you've made, just let him know. The estate has maybe done something that you think will improve on the value of the property. You just want to let him know so that he does not leave that out. It will help you maybe in some way, even if it's a very minimal way, but it will help you ultimately. So you can source finance, you can source money in different ways. If you have to sell some of the properties that you own, for you to recover the property, maybe you have vehicles that you do not need at the moment, or it has got to a point where your house, you have to weigh between your house, your family house, and your car. Then in that case, you may have to sell off the car. If you have another property that you think you can do without, then you may have to maybe sell it off, or you may have to, if I do not advise for this, but if you have to take another loan, then so be it. You may have to take another loan for you to come, so that you do not lose this property. Because the hiccup is just for this moment, then in future you're sure that you're going to recover. Then you may have to go and take a loan against that property and come back and sort out this issue, which is urgent at the moment, and then you go back and you come back and recover later. So if you have to do that, then well and good. Also, I saw a certain client who had overdeveloped the property. It was a maisonette in Lavington, where the market value of the units within the estate is around 70 million. But he took a loan to use it to develop that very same property. So he overdeveloped the property such that the property is now worth over 100 million. But he was unable to pay off that loan. So the bank is coming back for the property, which is his own family home, which he has taken out a heavy loan, just to do extra developments. He has changed a lot of layouts in the property. He has changed the furnishing in the property. But at the end of the day, he's unable to pay off the loan. So he requested the bank that he becomes a tenant to the bank. So a valuation was done, and the market rent for that kind of property was ascertained. And so the man decided that he would become the tenant instead of the bank taking the property and giving it to someone else. So he's now a tenant for the property. that was the kind of restructuring that the bank went for. I do not know if many banks would do this, but for the bank that he was working with, the bank that he was working, because it's just 2 years ago, they agreed to do this. They agreed that because they're unable to make the full payment of the mortgage, the monthly payment, it will now be a tenant for them. So thank you for watching. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe. We do this kind of content. We do property advisory. If you have any kind of questions that you may have concerning a property, if you wish to acquire a property somewhere and you want someone to help you in that process, if you also need looking for someone to help you sell your property, then just go ahead and send a message or call the numbers at the bottom of the screen, and we'll get back to you. Thank you, and see you in the next video.